Hey, tonight we're going to journey back to Tudor England, where life for homeowners was both beautiful and brutal in ways you might never have imagined. We'll discover how something as simple as a chimney could kill you in your sleep, why sugar was both a luxury and a silent killer, and how even fetching water for your morning tea could be your last task of the day. It's a tale of survival in a time when the simplest comforts we take for granted today were revolutionary, dangerous innovations. Hey, if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or subscribe. I'm curious where you're listening from, so drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Now, find a cozy spot, take a slow, deep breath, and let your body sink into comfort as we journey back in time together. Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1580 in a small market town about a day's ride from London. The first thing you notice is the weight of the woolen blanket pressing down on your chest. It's rough against your skin, but deliciously warm. Your breath makes little clouds in the cold morning air of your bedchamber. Unlike the medieval houses of your grandparents' time, you're not sleeping in the great hall with the rest of the household. You have your own room, a luxury made possible by that revolutionary addition to your home, the chimney. Roll over and you can see it, a massive stone structure jutting from the wall, its brick facing stretching up toward the ceiling. Good news, you're part of the rising, middling sort, not nobility, but prosperous enough to afford this fancy new technology. Bad news, that impressive chimney might just kill you one day. But let's not worry about that right now. Your toes curl against the chill as you slide them onto the rush-covered floor. Little fragments of dried herbs crush beneath your feet, releasing faint scents of lavender and rosemary that barely mask the other smells that have accumulated since you last changed the rushes. The floor coverings serve a purpose. They keep the cold of the earth from seeping up through the packed dirt floor, but they harbour their own dangers. Erasmus, that famous Dutch scholar who visited England, once wrote with disgust about how the bottom layer of rushes in some homes remained unchanged for 20 years, becoming a nasty stew of ale, fish juice, vomit, the leakage of dogs and men, and other abominations not fit to mention. But you're proud of your home, and you try to change the floor coverings at least once a season. Still, your nose wrinkles slightly at the musty odour that rises with each step. You pull on your linen undergarments, the same ones you've been wearing all week. The cold fabric sticks to your skin, making you shiver. Next comes your wool kirtle if you're a woman, or woolen breeches and doublet if you're a man. Either way, you'll be wearing multiple layers that you won't wash for quite some time. In Tudor England, changing your linen undergarments counts as bathing for most ordinary folks. The linen absorbs the oils and dirt from your skin, and changing it every week or so keeps you reasonably clean by Tudor standards. You feel a gentle twinge in your jaw. That back tooth has been bothering you again. You run your tongue over it, feeling the rough edge where a piece broke off. Sweet treats have become more common in your diet since sugar prices dropped and your teeth are paying the price. You've seen people with blackened, rotting teeth, and you've heard stories of those who died from tooth ailments when infections spread to their blood. Tomorrow, you might visit the barber surgeon to have it pulled, but today you just rub a mixture of honey and herbs on it to dull the pain, ironically using sugar to soothe a problem likely caused by sugar. The first priority is getting the fire going. You kneel before the hearth in your chamber, arranging kindling in the cold ashes, the flint and steel spark after a few strikes catching the dried tinder. You blow gently, coaxing the tiny flame to life, then gradually add larger pieces of wood. The fire catches properly, and warmth begins to radiate through the room. Smoke curls up the chimney, and you feel a momentary pang of pride. Not everyone has a proper chimney yet. Many homes still have central hearths with smoke holes in the roof. Your chimney allows you to have this private chamber with its own heat source. It's transformed how you live, making your home more comfortable and private than the great hall houses of the previous century. But like every comfort in Tudor England, it comes with hidden risks. Last summer, the chimney in the Fletcher family's home caught fire during the night. The wattle and daub backing of their poorly constructed chimney smouldered for hours before erupting into flames that consumed half the street before it was contained. 12 people died, including all 4 Fletcher children. You push the thought away as you head downstairs to begin your day. The wooden stairs creak beneath your feet. The morning light filters through the narrow windows, illuminating dancing dust motes in the air. The house feels solid around you. Timber frame with wattle and daub walls, the wooden beams darkened with age and smoke. If you're prosperous enough, perhaps the timbers form decorative patterns on the exterior of your home, showing your status to all who pass by. Your stomach growls as you enter the kitchen at the rear of the house. Here, the hearth is larger, big enough to roast a small pig if needed. Today, though, you'll settle for breaking your fast with some bread and perhaps a bit of hard cheese. You cut a thick slice from yesterday's loaf. If you're wealthy, it's white bread made from finely milled wheat flour. If you're of more modest means, it's a darker, denser bread made from rye or barley. The bread feels heavy in your hand, substantial. You bite into it, and the chewy crust gives way to a slightly sour interior. It's not light and fluffy like modern bread. It's dense with a distinct tanginess from the natural fermentation. It takes work to eat, requiring proper chewing, but it's filling and sustaining. You follow it with a swig of small beer, a weak, low-alcohol brew that's safer to drink than water from most sources. Beyond the kitchen door lies your garden, a carefully tended plot that provides herbs for cooking and medicine, vegetables for the table, and flowers for simple beauty. If you're a woman, much of your day will be spent tending this garden, preserving its bounty and transforming its yield into food and remedies for your family. With breakfast finished, it's time to face the first major chore of the day, fetching water. Without running water or indoor plumbing, every drop used in your household must be carried in by hand. If you're fortunate, there's a well near your home. If not, you'll need to make your way to the nearest stream or river. You grab 2 wooden buckets and step outside. The morning air is fresh after yesterday's rain, and puddles dot the dirt path that leads from your door. The weight of empty buckets feels deceptively light as you swing them at your sides. Your neighbours are already out, women with laundry baskets heading to the stream, craftsmen opening shop fronts, apprentices sweeping doorways. You nod greetings as you make your way to the communal well at the centre of town. A small queue has formed already. Water gathering is a communal activity, a chance to exchange news and gossip. You wait your turn, listening to talk of rising food prices and the latest proclamation from Queen Elizabeth that has been posted at the market cross. When it's your turn, you lower the well bucket down, hearing the distant splash as it hits water. The rope pulls taut in your hands as you begin the labour of hauling it back up. The muscles in your arms and back strain with the familiar effort. Water sloshes over the sides as you empty the well bucket into your own containers. Now comes the true work. Each bucket, filled to the brim, weighs about 40 pounds. You lift them with practiced care, balancing the weight as you begin the walk home. Water splashes onto your skirts or leggings with each step, and by the time you reach your door, your arms are trembling with effort. This journey will be repeated multiple times today for cooking, cleaning, brewing, and if it's laundry day, many more trips will be needed. It's easy to forget how physically demanding life is in Tudor England. Every comfort requires labour, your own or someone else's. There are no shortcuts, no machines to ease the burden. Your body knows this truth in every muscle and joint. By the age of 30, many people show the wear of this constant labour in their bodies. Calloused hands, stooped shoulders, aching backs. You've barely set down the water buckets when there's a knock at your door. It's your neighbour, Thomas Cooper, the cloth merchant. His face is pale, his eyes wide with worry. "Have you heard?" he asks, voice tight. "There's plague in London. A traveller arrived last night with news that 3 parishes are already shut up. A cold knot of fear tightens in your belly. Plague is the most dreaded visitor in Tudor England. When it comes to town, death follows close behind. In the last outbreak, 15 years ago, your town lost nearly a fifth of its population. You were just a child then, but you remember the closed houses marked with red crosses, the dead carts rolling through the streets at dawn, the mass graves dug at the edge of the churchyard. How bad, you ask? Bad enough that the Queen's Court is preparing to move out of the city, Thomas replies. They say she'll progress through the countryside until winter, staying ahead of the contagion. This is both concerning news and practical sense. Plague tends to diminish with the first frosts. If the outbreak can be contained until then, there's hope it won't spread to the outlying towns. But trade with London is the lifeblood of your local economy. If goods stop flowing, hardship will follow even if the disease doesn't. We should be safe here for now, you say, trying to sound more confident than you feel. But perhaps it's time to stock up on provisions. Thomas nods grimly. My wife is already preparing our plague remedies. Best to be ready. After he leaves, you find yourself mentally inventorying your own medicine cabinet, the dried herbs hanging from the kitchen rafters, the small pots of salves and tinctures on the shelf. Perhaps it's time to gather fresh herbs from the garden to make a plague preventative. No one really knows what causes the pestilence, but most believe it travels through foul air. Sweet-smelling herbs might offer some protection. You step into your garden, feeling the soil beneath your feet, breathing in the scents of thyme, sage and rosemary. The garden is both pantry and pharmacy to your household. Here grows the food that will sustain you and the medicine that might save you. You begin to clip sprigs of rosemary and lavender for a protective pomander, a ball of herbs that you can carry and sniff frequently if plague threatens. The rhythm of garden work calms your mind. Your fingers work the soil, pulling weeds, checking the progress of vegetables. The physical connection to the earth grounds you in the present moment despite the worrying news. The sun warms your back as you bend and stretch, and the familiar ache in your muscles feels right, natural. This is the constant balance of Tudor life, the comfort of routine set against the precariousness of existence. Death is never far away, whether from disease, accident, or childbirth. Yet daily life continues with its patterns and pleasures, its small moments of beauty and connection. By midday, your stomach reminds you it's time to eat again. The main meal of the day is dinner, eaten around noon when natural light is strongest. You've prepared a pottage, a thick stew of vegetables from your garden with perhaps a small amount of salt pork or beef for flavour. It's been simmering at the edge of the hearth all morning, the ingredients breaking down into a nutritious, if monotonous, meal. You ladle the steaming pottage into wooden bowls for yourself and any family members or apprentices who share your home. The food is hot and filling, seasoned with herbs from your garden. It's eaten with more bread, using the crust as both utensil and plate. Nothing is wasted. After dinner, if you're a craftsperson, you might return to your workshop. If you're a merchant, perhaps you have accounts to manage. If you're responsible for running the household, there's always more work. Spinning, weaving, sewing, preserving food, making candles or soap, brewing ale. Tudor homes are centres of production, not just consumption. The afternoon passes in a blur of productive labour. Your back aches and your hands are rough from work, but there's satisfaction in seeing tasks completed, in providing for yourself and your household. This self-sufficiency is both necessity and source of pride. As the light begins to fade, you face another daily challenge, illuminating your home. Candles are expensive, made from valuable beeswax or tallow, animal fat. Oil lamps are an option, but the fuel is costly. Most Tudor households conserve artificial light, using it sparingly and retiring early once natural light fades. You light a single candle, its warm glow creating a small circle of visibility in the growing darkness. The flickering light casts giant shadows on the walls, making the familiar room seem larger, more mysterious. The flame needs constant attention. If it gutters or tips, it could set fire to your rushes, your furniture, your entire timber-framed house. Fire is both essential and terrifying in Tudor England. You need it for warmth, for cooking, for light, but it's also the greatest threat to life and property. A moment's carelessness can lead to disaster. Every town has experienced devastating fires that sweep through closely packed timber-framed buildings with frightening speed. You stare into the candle flame, hypnotized by its dance, feeling the day's exertions in your body. Your muscles are tired, but in a satisfying way. You've accomplished what needed doing today. You've fed yourself and your household. You've prepared for possible dangers. You've maintained your little corner of the world. As you prepare for bed, you bank the fire carefully, covering the coals with ashes to keep them alive until morning. Starting a fire from scratch is labour-intensive. Better to nurture the existing flame if possible. It's a skill passed down through generations, this careful tending of the hearth. The bedchamber feels cold after the relative warmth of the rooms where fires have burned all day. You change into your sleeping shift, a simple linen garment, and slide beneath the heavy wool blankets. The straw-filled mattress crackles beneath your weight, conforming to your body. It's not the soft, springy sleep surface of modern times, but to your Tudor body, it feels comfortable enough. You pull the blankets up to your chin, feeling their weight press you down into the mattress. Outside, the town is growing quiet. No streetlights illuminate the darkness. Only the occasional lantern carried by the night watch or late travellers creates moving points of light in the blackness. Your mind drifts to the news of plague in London. Will it reach your town? How will you protect yourself and your loved ones if it does? The thought should keep you awake, but physical exhaustion pulls you towards sleep. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges, its own labour. For now, your body demands rest. As your consciousness begins to fade, you're vaguely aware of the solid presence of your house around you, the timber frame that has stood for decades and might stand for centuries more, the chimney that draws smoke away from your sleeping form, the wattle and daub walls that keep out the worst of the wind and rain. This structure, for all its potential dangers, is your shelter, your protection against a world filled with uncertainties. Your breathing deepens, muscles relaxing into the straw mattress. The last thing you register before sleep claims you is the distant call of the night watchman. All's well, 9 o'clock, and all's well. His voice carries reassurance. For tonight at least, your little corner of Tudor England is secure. Sleep well. Tomorrow we'll continue our journey through the precarious, fascinating world of the Tudor homeowner. You wake before dawn, as most people do in Tudor England. The dim light filtering through the small window shows it's not yet proper morning. For a moment you lie still, enjoying the relative warmth of your bed while listening to the creaks and groans of your timber-framed house settling around you. These sounds are comforting, familiar companions in the darkness. Your house speaks to you in a language you understand. That slight whistling means a draft finding its way through the wattle and daub wall. The soft patter on the roof is early morning drizzle, not heavy enough to worry about leaks, but enough to make outdoor work unpleasant. The faint scent of smoke tells you the fire in the main hearth downstairs hasn't completely died overnight. With a deep breath, you push back the heavy woolen blankets and swing your feet to the floor. The cold rushes up through your body from the soles of your feet. Rush matting cushions your steps as you move to the small table where you keep your clothes. Dressing is a deliberate process. Unlike modern clothing with elastic, zippers, or even buttons, which are rare and expensive in Tudor times, your garments are secured with laces and pins. Each piece must be carefully arranged and fastened. You make your way downstairs in the half-light, moving with practiced ease through the familiar space. The main room of your house feels chilly after the night without a fire. Your first task, as it is every morning, is to rekindle the hearth. Kneeling before the fireplace, you uncover last night's carefully banked coals. Good news, there's still a dull red glow hidden beneath the ashes. You gently add small kindling, blowing softly until flames appear. The fire grows steadily as you add larger pieces of wood and warmth begins to radiate outward. As the room brightens with firelight, you can see the impressive structure of your chimney more clearly. It's a relatively new addition to houses of the middling sort, replacing the open hearths that once dominated the centres of homes. Before chimneys became common, smoke from indoor fires would simply rise to fill the upper portion of the house, before eventually finding its way out through a hole in the roof. Eyes would sting, lungs would burn, and everything would be covered in a film of soot. Your chimney, with its brick structure and proper flue, draws the smoke upward and out of your living space. It's a marvel of modern Tudor engineering and a status symbol that shows your prosperity. But as you watch the flames dance in the hearth, you can't help thinking about your neighbour's tragedy last winter. The Millers had just finished building their new chimney, a grand structure of brick and stone that dominated their main room. They'd hired a local mason rather than one of the skilled chimney builders from London, and the work had been completed quickly and for less than the usual cost. For 3 months they'd enjoyed their smoke-free home, showing it off to visitors with pride. Then came the bitter cold spell in January. They'd built up their fire higher than usual, trying to ward off the biting chill. In the middle of the night, the weight of the chimney, combined with the heat that had weakened its hastily constructed foundation, caused it to collapse entirely. The falling bricks crushed Thomas Miller as he slept on the pallet bed near the hearth. His wife and children survived, but the household's main provider was gone in an instant. Such stories are common enough that in many towns, new regulations have been established for chimney construction. In Oxford, ordinances passed just a few years ago require all chimneys to be built of tile, slate, or brick, not the wattle and daub that made up many earlier versions. The rules also demand that chimneys be swept 4 times yearly, with a fine of 3 shillings and 4 pence for any chimney that catches fire due to neglect. You poke at your own fire, watching as sparks fly upward into the dark chimney flue. Your chimney is well built, constructed by a mason with a good reputation. Still, you make a mental note to have it swept soon. Better to spend a few pence on prevention than risk everything to a fire. With the fire established, you fetch the iron pot hanging nearby and carry it outside to the water barrel. The barrel collects rainwater from the eaves of your house, not clean enough for drinking, but sufficient for cooking and washing. You dip the pot in, feeling the cold water envelop your hands. By the time you've carried it back inside and hung it over the fire to heat, your fingers are red and stinging from the chill. While the water heats, you prepare the morning pottage, a simple porridge of oats with perhaps an apple chopped in if you're fortunate. Food in Tudor England follows strict seasonal patterns. In late summer and autumn, there's relative abundance. Winter brings limited options, and spring can be the leanest time of all when stored foods are running low and new crops aren't yet ready for harvest. The the smell of cooking porridge fills the room, a comforting scent that signals the proper beginning of the day. Other household members begin to stir, drawn by the warmth and promise of food. Conversation is minimal at this early hour, just the necessary exchanges about the day's work ahead. After breaking your fast, it's time to face one of the most perilous tasks of Tudor daily life, fetching clean water for drinking. The water barrel outside collects rainwater, but it's not considered suitable for consumption. For drinking, cooking, and brewing the small beer that safely quenches daily thirst, you need fresh water from a clean source. You grab 2 wooden buckets and head out into the muddy lane. The overnight rain has made the path slippery, and you step carefully, mindful of your footing. Falls are common and can be deadly. A broken limb often leads to infection, and without effective treatments, what begins as a simple accident can end in death. The path to the stream winds past neighbours' homes and gardens. Smoke rises from chimneys, and you exchange brief greetings with others on similar errands. Community is essential in Tudor England. You rely on your neighbours for help, protection, and the small daily interactions that make life bearable. At the stream, you find several women already gathered. Some are filling water vessels like you, while others have brought laundry to wash. The stream serves multiple purposes for your community. Drinking water is collected upstream, while washing and other activities that might contaminate the water are done downstream. You carefully make your way down the slippery bank to where the water runs clear over rocks. Placing your buckets in the flow one at a time, you watch them fill with the cold, clear liquid. The weight increases substantially with each inch of water. With both buckets full, you face the challenging return journey. Each bucket weighs over 30 pounds, and you must balance them carefully as you climb the muddy bank. Your arms strain with the effort, muscles developed through years of similar labour. The water sloshes dangerously with each step, some spilling over the rims and soaking your skirts or leggings. The coroner's reports from your region tell the grim story of how dangerous this simple task can be. Last year alone, 3 women drowned while collecting water. One slipped and hit her head on a rock, another fell through ice during winter, and a third was caught in suddenly rising waters after heavy rain upstream. Men aren't immune either. Several have drowned while watering horses or fishing. Water is life, but in Tudor England, it's also a constant threat. Even when safely collected, it can harbour invisible dangers. Many who drink from wells or streams near towns fall ill with flux or bloody flux, dysentery, their bodies racked with cramps and deadly diarrhoea. This is why many Tudor households drink small beer instead of water. The brewing process makes it safer. Children and adults alike consume this lightly alcoholic beverage throughout the day. It's not strong enough to cause intoxication, but provides both hydration and some nutrition. By the time you reach your door, your arms are trembling with exertion. You set the buckets down carefully, rolling your shoulders to ease the ache. This journey will be repeated several times today. Water for drinking, cooking, washing, and if it's brew day, many more trips for the substantial amount needed to make beer. Inside, you transfer some of the precious water to a smaller pot for drinking and cooking. The rest is covered to keep out dust and insects. Even with care, you know that by tomorrow this water will need to be used for less critical purposes as it begins to stagnate. The morning passes in a blur of household tasks. If you're a craftsperson, you might be working at your trade, carpentry, blacksmithing, weaving, or any of the dozens of specialised skills that keep Tudor society functioning. If you manage a household, you're preserving food, spinning thread, tending the garden, preparing meals, and overseeing the endless cycle of work that keeps a home running. By midday, your stomach growls with hunger. The main meal of the day, dinner is eaten around noon when natural light is strongest. Today's meal might be a more substantial pottage with vegetables from your garden and perhaps a small portion of salt beef or pork if your household can afford it. As you eat, seated at the wooden table with other household members, conversation turns to news from London. A merchant who passed through yesterday brought troubling reports of plague spreading in the eastern parishes. Already, some houses have been shut up, their doors marked with red crosses and watchmen posted to ensure no one enters or leaves until the quarantine period has passed. They say the Queen has already left for the countryside, remarks your spouse or another household member, taking the court with her naturally. This is concerning news. When plague strikes, those with means flee to the safety of rural areas. The poor, who have nowhere to go, bear the brunt of the disease. Your town, a day's ride from London, might soon see travellers seeking refuge, possibly bringing contagion with them. We should prepare, you say, thinking of the herbs in your garden that might offer some protection. Rosemary, lavender, and rue are thought to purify the air and ward off miasma, the foul vapours believed to spread disease. After dinner, you step into your garden to gather these protective herbs. The small plot behind your house is a source of pride and essential resources. Here grow the vegetables that feed your family, the herbs that season your food and treat your ailments, and perhaps a few flowers that bring simple beauty to your life. You clip sprigs of rosemary and rue, inhaling their strong scents. These will be hung in bunches around the house or carried as sweet-smelling pomanders to ward off disease. Whether they truly offer protection is uncertain, but their familiar fragrance provides comfort in uncertain times. While in the garden, you check on other plants growing there. The useful house leek planted on the roof to protect against lightning and fire seems to be thriving. Various herbs for cooking and medicine, thyme, sage, marjoram, feverfew, and dozens more grow in neat rows or contained beds. If you're a woman in Tudor England, knowledge of these plants and their uses is one of your most valuable skills. You know which herbs to harvest for a cooling fever, which can ease a toothache, which might help a difficult childbirth, and which can be poisonous in the wrong dose. This wisdom passed down through generations is your medicine cabinet and pharmacy. A sudden commotion from the street draws your attention. Voices are raised in alarm and you hurry to the front of the house to see what's happening. A crowd has gathered around the house of Master Cooper, the clothier. His youngest son, a boy of about 7, is being carried inside, his clothing soaked and his face pale. He fell in the mill pond, someone explains as you join the onlookers. Young Jenkins pulled him out, but he swallowed a fair amount of water. Your heart tightens with concern. Drowning is one of the most common causes of accidental death in Tudor England. Even those who are pulled from the water alive often develop fever and lung ailments in the days following. The heavy wool clothing worn by most people becomes a deadly weight when soaked, dragging even strong swimmers beneath the surface. You watch as the unconscious boy is carried inside, his mother weeping alongside. There's little that can be done beyond warming him, trying to remove the water from his lungs and praying. Without modern medical knowledge or equipment, many such accidents end in tragedy. This stark reminder of life's fragility casts a shadow over the afternoon. You return to your tasks with more care, more awareness of the dangers that lurk in even the most mundane activities. In Tudor England, death is not a distant possibility, but a constant companion, visiting homes with regrettable frequency. As the afternoon wanes, your attention turns to preparing the evening meal, supper. This is typically lighter than dinner, perhaps bread and cheese, maybe some preserved fruit if available. If your household includes children, you oversee their evening tasks and preparations for sleep. The fading light signals another challenge of Tudor life. darkness. Candles are expensive, made from valuable beeswax or tallow, animal fat. Most households use them sparingly, reserving artificial light for essential tasks only. As twilight deepens, activity naturally slows. The working day, which began before dawn, starts to wind down with the setting sun. You light a single candle, its warm glow creating a small pool of visibility in the growing darkness. The flame needs constant attention. If it gutters or tips, it could ignite the rush-strewn floor or the timber frame of your house, turning comfort to catastrophe in moments. By the candle's light, you might spend the evening hours in simple handwork, mending clothes, spinning thread, or carving useful items. Conversation, storytelling, or singing provide entertainment. In wealthier households, someone might read aloud from the Bible or one of the increasingly available printed books. Before retiring, you check the house one final time. The fire is carefully banked, ashes pulled over the coals to keep them alive till morning. Doors and shutters are secured against both human intruders and the night air, believed to carry disease. Perhaps a sprig of protective herbs is hung by each entrance, a small charm against the invisible dangers that threaten your household. Climbing the stairs to your chamber, candle in hand, you feel the day's labour in every muscle. Your body knows the rhythm of Tudor life, the constant physical work, the careful management of resources, the vigilance against numerous threats. It's a hard life by modern standards, but it's the only one you know. In your bedchamber, you remove your outer clothing, carefully folding each piece. Full undressing for sleep is uncommon. You'll likely sleep in your shift or shirt, ready to rise and dress quickly if emergency strikes in the night. The candle is extinguished once you're safely in bed, plunging the room into darkness save for whatever moonlight filters through the small window. As you settle beneath the heavy blankets, your mind drifts to the Cooper boy and his brush with death. Will he survive the night? Will fever take him in the days to come? Such accidents are commonplace, yet each one reminds you of life's precariousness. Your thoughts turn to your own household and its vulnerabilities. The chimney that provides such comfort could become a deadly hazard if not properly maintained. The water that sustains life can also take it away. The very structure of your timber-framed house, while solid and familiar, could feed a devastating fire if a candle tips or a spark escapes the hearth. Yet despite these dangers, there's security in the solid walls around you, in the routines that order your days, in the knowledge and skills passed down through generations. Your Tudor home, for all its hazards, is your sanctuary in an uncertain world. As sleep begins to claim you, your breathing slows to match the quiet rhythm of the house. Outside, the night watchman calls the hour, his voice carrying reassurance. For now, at least, all is well in your corner of Tudor England. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges. More water to haul, more meals to prepare, more threats to navigate. But it will also bring small pleasures, the satisfaction of work well done, the comfort of familiar faces, perhaps a moment of beauty in the garden, or a shared laugh with neighbours. This balance of hardship and simple joy defines life in your Tudor home. The constant physical labour and vigilance against danger are offset by the deep satisfaction of self-sufficiency and the strength of community bonds. You fall asleep to the faint creaking of ancient timbers, the house that both protects and endangers you singing its nightly lullaby. Your body relaxes into the straw-filled mattress, muscles gradually releasing the tension of the day's work. Your breathing deepens, consciousness fading. The last thing you register before sleep claims you completely as gratitude for surviving another day in the beautiful, precarious world of Tudor England. Sleep well. Tomorrow we'll continue our journey through the perils and pleasures of Tudor home ownership. Morning arrives with pale light filtering through the small glass window panes, a luxury that not every Tudor home enjoys. Many still use oiled paper or wooden shutters to cover window openings, keeping out the worst of the weather while allowing a bit of light to enter. Your glass windows mark you as someone of means, part of the prosperous middling sort who can afford some comforts. You stretch beneath the heavy woolen blankets, feeling the familiar ache in your muscles from yesterday's labour. Every part of Tudor life requires physical exertion, and your body bears witness to this truth. Your hands are calloused from work, your back accustomed to bending and lifting, your legs strong from walking miles each week on errands and chores. As you rise and dress, your thoughts turn to your aching tooth. The pain has grown worse overnight, a dull throb that intensifies when you drink anything hot or cold. In Tudor England, toothache is not merely an inconvenience. It's a potentially serious condition that can lead to deadly infection if left untreated. Good news, there are remedies available to you. Bad news, none of them are particularly pleasant, and some carry their own risks. The safest option is to try herbal treatments first. You make your way downstairs and out to your garden, where cloves grow alongside other medicinal herbs. Chewing a clove and placing it directly against the painful tooth might bring temporary relief. Oil of cloves, if you have it in your store of remedies, works even better. But herbs can only do so much against the relentless progress of tooth decay. If the pain persists, you'll need to visit the barber surgeon, who serves as dentist, bloodletter, and minor surgeon all in one. His primary treatment for toothache is extraction, a procedure performed without anesthesia, beyond perhaps a strong draught of alcohol to dull your senses slightly. The tooth will be pulled with a large pair of metal forceps, a painful process that risks breaking the tooth or damaging the jaw if done poorly. Infection following extraction is common, sometimes leading to fever, swelling, and occasionally death if the infection spreads to the bloodstream. Why has tooth decay become such a common problem in Tudor England? The answer lies partly in your changing diet. Sugar, once a rare and expensive spice available only to the nobility, has become increasingly affordable during the Tudor period. Production in the New World, using slave labour, has dramatically lowered the price, making sweetened foods accessible to people of the middling sort. Sugar has transformed Tudor cuisine, making possible all manner of sweet treats that were previously unknown. Candied fruits, sweet puddings, sugared cakes, and comfits, sugar-coated seeds or nuts, have become popular additions to the tables of those who can afford them. Even savoury dishes often contain sugar, which is considered both a flavouring and a preservative. What few realise is that this delicious new ingredient is silently damaging teeth across England. The acids produced when sugar breaks down eat away at tooth enamel, creating painful cavities that inevitably lead to extraction. Skulls from this period examined by modern researchers show extensive decay compared to those from earlier eras. You run your tongue over your painful tooth, feeling the rough edge where a piece has broken away. Perhaps it's time to visit the barber surgeon and have done with it. Better to endure the brief agony of extraction than suffer prolonged pain that might eventually lead to something worse. After a simple breakfast of bread and small beer, you make your way through the muddy streets to the barber surgeon's shop. It's easily identified by the striped pole outside, the red and white bands symbolising bloody bandages wrapped around a pole, a graphic advertisement of the bloodletting services offered within. The shop is small but clean, with a chair positioned near the window to catch the best light. Tools of the trade hang on the wall or rest on a nearby table. Razors for shaving, bowls for catching blood during bleeding, cupping glasses, and the dreaded tooth forceps. Master Simmons, the barber surgeon, greets you with professional cheer. He's a respected figure in the community, trained through a formal apprenticeship and licensed by his guild. When you explain your problem, he nods with understanding. Open wide and let me see. He instructs, peering into your mouth as you sit in the wooden chair. His fingers, surprisingly gentle, probe the painful area. Ah yes, badly decayed. It must come out before the corruption spreads. He reaches for a small vial on his shelf. Rinse with this first. It will numb the area somewhat. The liquid tastes strongly of cloves and burns slightly as you swish it around the aching tooth. When you spit into the bowl he provides, you notice flecks of blood mixed with the solution. Ready? He asks, picking up the large metal forceps. You grip the arms of the chair and nod, bracing yourself. The pain when he grips the tooth is intense, a sharp stab that makes you gasp. There's a horrible grinding sensation as he works the forceps back and forth, loosening the tooth in its socket. Despite your best intentions, a cry escapes you as he pulls with significant force. Then suddenly, relief. The pressure vanishes as the tooth comes free, blood fills your mouth, and Master Simmons quickly provides a cloth to bite down on. All done, he says cheerfully, showing you the extracted tooth with its blackened crown and long root. A clean pull. Keep the cloth pressed against the socket until the bleeding stops, and rinse with salt water for the next few days to prevent corruption. You pay him a few pence for his services and make your way home, still biting down on the cloth. Your jaw aches fiercely, but there's also relief that the source of infection has been removed. Many people in Tudor England live with painful teeth for years, unable to afford extraction or too fearful of the procedure to seek help until driven by unbearable pain. Back at home, you sit by the fire, waiting for the bleeding to subside. Your mind turns to other health concerns that plague Tudor households. Tooth decay is common, but rarely immediately fatal. Other ailments pose more serious threats. Chief among these is plague, the dreaded pestilence that periodically sweeps through towns and cities, killing as much as 20% of the population during severe outbreaks. The most recent major epidemic was in 1563, but smaller outbreaks occur frequently. Each time those who can afford to flee to the countryside do so, while the poor remain trapped in infected towns. No one knows exactly what causes plague, though most believe it travels through miasma, foul air carrying the contagion, hence the popularity of sweet-smelling herbs and pomanders as preventatives. Some physicians recommend wearing amulets of arsenic or toad venom against the skin, believing these poisons will draw out the plague poison. Others suggest bloodletting to restore balance to the body's humours, which are thought to govern health. When plague strikes a household, the entire family is shut up, quarantined inside their home for 40 days, with guards posted outside to prevent anyone from entering or leaving. A red cross is painted on the door, and food is delivered by leaving it outside. Many entire families perish inside these sealed houses, with no one to care for the sick or dispose of the dead until the quarantine period ends. But plague isn't the only disease that threatens Tudor homes. In recent decades, a new ailment has appeared, the French pox or Great Pox, which we now know as syphilis. Unlike plague, which strikes suddenly and kills quickly, syphilis is a slow, progressive disease that can take years to manifest its most severe symptoms. It begins with sores on the genitals, followed by a rash and fever that may temporarily subside. Months or years later, sufferers develop disfiguring sores on their skin, painful swellings, and eventually damage to the brain, heart, and other organs. The disease carries tremendous stigma, as it's known to spread primarily through sexual contact. Treatments for syphilis are limited and often dangerous. The most common remedy is mercury, applied as an ointment, taken as a pill, or even injected directly into the urethra. Mercury does seem to reduce some symptoms temporarily, but the cure is nearly as deadly as the disease. Mercury poisoning causes excessive salivation, loss of teeth, neurological damage, and eventually death if treatment continues long enough. Yet despite these health threats, Tudor medicine is not entirely without merit. The extensive knowledge of herbs and their properties passed down through generations and now documented in printed herbals provides effective treatments for many common ailments. Willowbark tea genuinely relieves pain and reduces fever as it contains salicin, a compound similar to modern aspirin. Comfrey poultices do help heal wounds and broken bones, earning the plant its nickname knitbone. Your herb garden is your primary pharmacy, growing remedies for everything from headache to digestive troubles. Each plant has been carefully cultivated, not just for its culinary uses, but for its medicinal properties. Feverfew for migraines, chamomile for sleep and digestion, sage for sore throats, rosemary to improve memory, and dozens more. The bleeding from your extracted tooth has finally stopped. You rinse your mouth with salt water as instructed and feel cautiously around the empty socket with your tongue. The pain is still present but different now, a dull healing ache rather than the sharp throb of infection. With this immediate health concern addressed, your thoughts turn to the rest of the day's tasks. If you're responsible for managing the household, there's always work waiting. Cooking, cleaning, mending, preserving food, making candles or soap, brewing ale, and more. Today might be brewing day, one of the most labour-intensive but essential household tasks. Beer is a daily staple in Tudor England, consumed by everyone from children to the elderly. It provides calories, nutrients, and most importantly, safe hydration. The brewing process kills harmful bacteria that might lurk in water sources, making beer often safer to drink than water from wells or streams. Brewing requires significant quantities of water, meaning multiple trips to the water source. The heavy malted grain must be mashed in hot water, the liquid strained and boiled with hops, a relatively new addition to English brewing, then cooled and fermented with yeast. The entire process takes days and demands constant attention to ensure success. Or perhaps today is wash day, another water-intensive task that occurs every few weeks in most households. Laundry in Tudor times is incredibly labour-intensive. First, linens and clothing are soaked in lye, a caustic solution made from wood ash and water that helps remove stubborn stains. Then each item must be scrubbed by hand using a mixture of soft soap made from animal fat and potash and fuller's earth. After scrubbing, the laundry is rinsed multiple times in clean water, each rinse requiring another trip to the water source. Finally, everything is hung to dry, either outdoors if weather permits, or near the fire during inclement weather. The entire process might take 2 full days of hard physical labour. Whether brewing, laundering, or performing other household tasks, your Tudor home is not merely a place of residence, but a centre of production. Nearly everything needed for daily life is made or processed within its walls or in its garden. This self-sufficiency is both necessity and source of pride. As the day progresses, you notice dark clouds gathering to the west. A storm is approaching, and with it comes another hazard of Tudor home ownership: leaks. While the thatched or tiled roof over your head is generally effective at keeping out the elements, years of weathering create weak spots where water can find its way inside. You check that valuable items are moved away from known problem areas and place buckets under the worst leaks. The sound of rain on the roof begins softly, then intensifies, drumming steadily as the storm arrives in earnest. Water droplets soon find their way inside, pattering into strategically placed containers. The rain brings a cozy intimacy to your home, encouraging indoor tasks and conversation. If your household includes children, they might gather around to help with simple work or listen to stories. If you have books, still relatively expensive items in Tudor England, someone might read aloud by the light of the fire. More likely, tales are shared from memory, stories passed down through generations, or news and gossip from around town. As the afternoon wears on, your attention turns to preparing the evening meal. Food in Tudor England follows strict seasonal patterns, with preservation techniques like salting, smoking, and pickling extending the availability of certain items beyond their natural season. If your household is prosperous, dinner might include a small portion of meat or fish alongside vegetables from your garden and the ever-present bread. For special occasions, there might be more elaborate dishes featuring imported spices or the increasingly available sugar. Sugar has transformed Tudor cuisine far beyond simply rotting teeth. It appears in all manner of dishes, both sweet and savoury. Comfits, sugar-coated seeds or nuts, marchpane, what we would call marzipan, sweet puddings and candied fruits have become popular additions to the tables of those who can afford them. What's particularly fashionable at grand Tudor feasts is creating subtleties, elaborate sugar sculptures or foods disguised to look like something else. A dish might appear to be bacon but is actually coloured and shaped sugar. Fruits and nuts might be replicated entirely in sugar paste and painted to look realistic. These edible illusions delight guests and demonstrate both wealth and sophistication. For the middling sort, such elaborate confections are rare, reserved perhaps for special occasions like weddings or Christmas celebrations, but the influence of sugar is still evident in simpler forms: sweetened porridge, fruit preserves, and basic cakes or puddings. After the evening meal, as daylight fades, your household begins to wind down. Candles are lit sparingly, their precious light reserved for essential tasks. Most activity shifts naturally to the areas near the hearth, where firelight provides both warmth and illumination. This is the time for quieter pursuits: mending clothes, carving wooden implements, spinning thread, or simply conversing. Stories are shared, news discussed, plans made for tomorrow's work. In households with musical instruments, there might be songs or simple tunes played on pipes, lute, or recorder. As the rain continues to fall, you feel gratitude for the solid roof over your head despite its occasional leaks. Your Tudor home, with all its imperfections, provides shelter from the elements and a centre for family life. The timber frame that forms its skeleton has stood for decades and might stand for centuries more, outlasting generations of occupants. The house itself reflects the changing times. Unlike the medieval hall houses of your grandparents' era, with their central open hearths and communal sleeping arrangements, your home has specialised spaces, separate bedchambers, a distinct kitchen area, perhaps even a parlour for receiving guests. The introduction of chimneys made these divisions possible, allowing upper floors to extend fully across the building rather than opening to the hall below. These architectural changes mirror social transformations. Privacy has become more valued, and with it comes a new sense of domestic intimacy. Families increasingly dine separately from servants or apprentices. Bedchambers become personal spaces rather than communal ones. Even furniture reflects these changes, with cupboards and chests designed to secure personal possessions and beds becoming status symbols with their elaborate hangings and coverings. Your home is both traditional and modern, a bridge between medieval patterns of living and emerging Tudor innovations. The timber frame might follow construction methods centuries old, but the arrangement of rooms reflects new ideas about domestic life. As true night falls, you make one final circuit of the house, checking that fires are safely banked and doors secured. The rain has eased to a gentle patter, and moonlight occasionally breaks through the clouds, casting silver patches on the damp ground outside. You climb the stairs to your chamber, candle in hand, feeling the day's exertions in your body. The empty socket where your tooth was pulled throbs dully, but the pain is manageable, a fair trade for removing a source of infection that might have led to something worse. In your bedchamber, you remove your outer garments and climb beneath the heavy blankets. The straw-filled mattress crackles slightly as you settle your weight. Outside, the night watchman calls the hour, his voice carrying reassurance through the damp night air. 10 o'clock and all's well. You extinguish the candle, and darkness envelops the room, broken only by occasional moonlight through the small window. As sleep begins to claim you, your mind drifts through the events of the day. The extraction of your tooth, the household tasks completed, the storm weathered safely. Life in Tudor England is precarious, balanced always on the edge of disaster. Disease, fire, structural collapse, drowning. Dangers lurk in the most mundane aspects of daily existence. Yet humans are remarkably adaptable creatures. You navigate these hazards with knowledge passed down through generations, with community support, with the practical skills that define Tudor life. Your breathing slows, muscles relaxing into the mattress. The last thing you register before sleep claims you completely as the steady drumming of rain on the roof, a gentle rhythm that has lulled countless generations to sleep in houses not so different from your own. Sleep well. Tomorrow, we'll continue our journey through the perils and pleasures of Tudor home ownership. The morning light filters through your window, casting long shadows across the timber-framed walls of your bedchamber. You blink away sleep, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar gap in your mouth where yesterday the barber surgeon extracted your aching tooth. Your tongue explores the empty socket, tender still, but the throbbing pain that had plagued you for weeks is blessedly absent. Outside, birds announce the arrival of day with their chorus. The rain has cleared, leaving behind a freshly washed world. You can hear movement downstairs, other household members already beginning their day. In Tudor England, rising with the sun is not a choice, but a necessity. Daylight is precious, especially in winter months when darkness claims most of the day. As you dress, pulling on layers of linen and wool, your gaze falls on the structure of your room itself. The walls are a testament to Tudor building techniques, timber framing with wattle and daub infill. The wooden beams, darkened with age, form a sturdy skeleton, while the spaces between are filled with a mixture of woven sticks, wattle covered with a composite of wet soil, clay, sand, animal dung and straw, daub. This construction method has advantages and disadvantages. Good news, it's relatively inexpensive using locally available materials. The timber frame provides strength while the wattle and daub offers insulation against cold and heat. Bad news, it's vulnerable to weather and pests. Prolonged rain can weaken the daub, causing it to crack and fall away. Insects and rodents can burrow into the walls, making homes in the organic materials. You notice a small crack in the daub near the window, a repair needed before winter arrives. Maintaining a Tudor house is a constant process, not an occasional event. The organic nature of the building materials means they degrade naturally over time, requiring regular attention to prevent more serious structural issues. Making your way downstairs, you find the main room already warming from the freshly lit fire in the hearth. If you're the head of the household, family members or servants might already be preparing the morning meal. If you're a servant yourself, you join in the morning tasks, each person knowing their role in the well-orchestrated dance of household management. Breakfast is simple. Perhaps porridge made from oats, some bread left from yesterday, maybe an apple if they're in season. The morning meal is not the elaborate affair it will become in later centuries. It's fuel for the body, taken quickly before the day's work begins in earnest. After eating, you step outside to survey your property. If you're of the middling sort, you likely have a small garden for vegetables and herbs, perhaps an orchard with a few fruit trees, and possibly a yard for chickens or other small livestock. This productive space around your home is crucial for self-sufficiency, providing much of the food that sustains your household throughout the year. Your home itself tells neighbours and visitors much about your place in Tudor society. The size, materials, and decorative elements all speak to your status and wealth. The truly wealthy might have grand houses built entirely of stone or brick, with multiple chimneys, glazed windows throughout, and ornate architectural details. The poorest make do with single-room cottages of wattle and daub with thatched roofs and earthen floors. Your house stands somewhere between these extremes, substantial enough to include multiple rooms and at least one good chimney, perhaps with glass in the main windows and wooden shutters for the rest. The exterior might show decorative timber framing in patterns that please the eye, while strengthening the structure. These patterns vary by region, close studding in some areas, elaborate diagonal bracing in others. The timber framing visible on the exterior isn't just decorative, it's the skeleton that holds your house together. Each beam is carefully jointed and pegged to create a structure that can stand for centuries if properly maintained. The craftsmanship represents generations of knowledge passed from master to apprentice, each joint and peg placed with purpose and skill. Yet this sturdy skeleton harbours its own dangers. The heavy timbers, while strong, can shift over time as the wood ages and the ground beneath settles. A beam that moves even slightly can crack the surrounding daub, allowing dampness to penetrate the walls. In extreme cases, timbers can rot at crucial junction points, threatening the structural integrity of the entire building. Fire presents an even greater threat to timber-framed houses. In a world lit and heated by open flame, where cooking happens over hearth fires and candles provide evening light, the risk of fire is ever present. The timber frame that gives your house its strength becomes fuel if flames ever take hold, and the closeness of houses in towns means a fire in one building can quickly spread to engulf entire streets. This is why towns have begun implementing fire regulations requiring chimneys to be properly constructed and regularly swept. Some towns even maintain hooks and ladders specifically for fighting fires, along with leather buckets kept ready for bucket brigades. Despite these precautions, devastating fires remain common, periodically destroying significant portions of towns and cities. As you check your property, you notice your neighbour has begun a renovation on their house, adding a new wing that extends toward the street. This reflects another aspect of Tudor building practices. Houses often grow organically over time, with additions built as families expand or prosperity increases. What begins as a simple hall house might, over decades, develop wings, extensions, additional floors, or specialized rooms as needs change and resources allow. The neighbour's construction site is a hive of activity. Carpenters work on timber framing, their axes and adzes shaping massive oak beams. Others mix daub in a large pit, treading it with bare feet to achieve the right consistency before applying it to wattle panels. The air fills with the sounds of labour, the rhythm of saws, the sharp crack of hammers, the calls of workers coordinating their efforts. building a house in Tudor England is a community affair. Specialists like carpenters, tilers and glaziers bring their expertise, but neighbours often contribute labour as well, particularly for raising the heavy timber frames, a task requiring many hands. This community involvement creates bonds of obligation and reciprocity. When your own house needs repair or expansion, you'll call on the same network for assistance. This interconnectedness extends beyond construction to many aspects of Tudor life. Your home is not an isolated unit, but part of a web of relationships within your community. Neighbours borrow and lend tools, share excess produce from gardens, help with labour-intensive tasks like harvest or butchering, and provide mutual protection and support. Today, that interconnectedness becomes apparent when a messenger arrives at your door. The local bailiff has called a meeting of householders to discuss a matter of community concern. Such gatherings are common, addressing everything from repair of roads and bridges to resolution of disputes to organising responses to threats like fire or disease. You make your way to the meeting, held in the church or town hall. The gathered householders represent the backbone of Tudor society, the property owners, taxpayers, and responsible parties who manage community affairs. The matter under discussion today is drainage. Recent rains have caused flooding in the lower part of town, and action is needed before winter brings more wet weather. The proposed solution involves digging new drainage ditches along certain streets and clearing existing waterways of accumulated debris. Each household will be responsible for maintaining the section of ditch adjacent to their property, with a community effort organised to handle the larger clearing work. Failure to maintain your section could result in fines, as the community has the right to enforce participation in matters affecting public welfare. This system of local self-governance handles many aspects of daily life that will later fall to municipal authorities or private companies. Tudor communities largely manage their own affairs, from road maintenance to poor relief to regulation of markets, with minimal interference from higher authorities unless serious problems arise. After the meeting, you return home with a clearer understanding of your responsibilities to the community. The shared labour will begin tomorrow, with each household expected to provide at least one able-bodied worker for the common portions of the project. Back at your house, domestic activities continue. If it's brewing day, large quantities of water have been hauled from the stream or well, grain has been mashed and the liquid is now boiling with hops in a large copper kettle over the fire. The house fills with the rich, malty scent of brewing beer, a smell that will linger for days. If it's baking day, the large bread oven built into the side of the chimney has been heating since early morning. Wood is burned inside the oven until it reaches the proper temperature, then raked out before the dough is placed inside. The residual heat bakes the bread, gradually cooling over hours, allowing different items to be baked in sequence, from bread requiring the highest heat to pies and then cakes as the temperature drops. These activities, brewing, baking, laundry, candle making, soap making, follow a regular rhythm in Tudor households. Each is labour-intensive and often scheduled on a particular day of the week or month. The Tudor housewife or householder is not merely maintaining a home, but managing a small-scale production facility that creates many of the necessities of daily life. This production extends to food preservation, crucial for survival through lean seasons. As harvest time approaches, households prepare to process and store foods that will sustain them through winter and spring. Fruits are preserved as jams or dried. Vegetables might be pickled in vinegar or stored in cool, dry conditions. Grains are carefully dried and stored away from rodents. Meats are salted, smoked or dried to extend their usability. Proper food storage is essential yet fraught with challenges. Rodents and insects threaten stored grains and dried goods. Moisture can cause mold and rot. Temperature fluctuations can spoil preserved foods. Countless Tudor households have experienced hunger not because food wasn't produced, but because it couldn't be properly preserved or protected in storage. Your home includes various storage solutions, perhaps a root cellar dug beneath the floor, keeping vegetables cool and dark, sealed crocks for pickled and preserved foods, hooks in the chimney for smoking meats, and locked chests for valuable spices and imported goods. Each storage method represents generations of practical knowledge passed down through families. As afternoon advances toward evening, unexpected visitors arrive, travellers seeking lodging for the night. Hospitality in Tudor England is both a social obligation and a practical necessity in an era when public accommodations are limited outside major towns. Refusing shelter to respectable travellers would damage your reputation and social standing. Good news. Visitors bring news and novel conversation, breaking the routine of daily life. Bad news. They also bring risk of disease, of theft, even of political or religious complications in this era of shifting allegiances and religious turmoil. You welcome them as custom demands, offering food and drink appropriate to their apparent status. The visitors are merchants travelling to the next market town carrying cloth and small luxury goods. Their conversation brings welcome news from other communities and hints of events in London and beyond. Hosting guests requires rearrangement of sleeping arrangements. In most Tudor homes, beds are limited, and visitors might share sleeping space with household members or servants. Privacy, in the modern sense, is not an expectation. Bodies occupy space pragmatically, with gender and status determining appropriate arrangements more than notions of personal space. The evening meal is enhanced slightly to honour the guests. Perhaps a better cut of meat is served, or preserved fruits are offered as a sweet conclusion. Candles are lit more liberally than usual, extending the sociable hours past sunset. Conversation flows, aided perhaps by ale or wine if your household can afford it. This kind of hospitality represents another aspect of Tudor home life, the house as a semi-public space. Unlike modern homes, which are primarily private retreats, Tudor houses frequently accommodate non-family members, from servants and apprentices who live within the household, to temporary guests, to business associates meeting in the hall or parlour. As darkness falls completely, your home transforms. Shadows dance on the walls as candle and firelight flicker. The massive timbers that form your house's skeleton seem to grow larger in the dim light, their presence both reassuring in their strength and slightly ominous in their looming darkness. Night brings its own dangers. Fire risk increases with candles burning in multiple rooms. The darkness outside conceals potential intruders, thieves or worse. Town gates may be closed and watchmen patrol the streets, but security in Tudor times is far from guaranteed. Many households include protective elements against both physical and supernatural threats. Door and window locks defend against human intruders, while carved symbols or herbs hung over entrances ward off evil influences. Superstition and practical security measures exist side by side, neither seen as contradicting the other. Before retiring, you make a final circuit of the house, checking that fires are safely banked and candles extinguished except for those needed by still wakeful household members. Doors are secured, shutters closed and latched. These nightly rituals are not merely habits, but essential precautions against the very real dangers of fire and intrusion. Your guests have been settled in whatever sleeping space could be arranged, perhaps sharing the hall floor with servants or given a pallet in a corner of a chamber. Their goods are secured, their horses, if they have them, stabled with your own animals or at a nearby inn if you lack facilities. Finally, you climb the stairs to your own chamber, candle in hand, feeling the day's exertions in your body. The socket where your tooth was pulled yesterday throbs gently, but the pain is manageable, a vast improvement over the sharp agony of infection. Your bedchamber feels particularly welcoming tonight. The familiar creaks of the timber frame, the slight rustling of the straw mattress as you sit on its edge, the weight of woolen blankets as you pull them up. These sensations represent security in a world filled with uncertainties. When you extinguish your candle and darkness envelops the room, broken only by moonlight filtering through the small window. Outside, the night watchman calls the hour, his voice carrying reassurance through the quiet streets. 11 o'clock and all's well. As sleep begins to claim you, your mind drifts through the events of the day, the community meeting, the domestic tasks, the unexpected visitors. Your Tudor home has sheltered you through it all, its sturdy frame standing firm as it has for decades and may for centuries more. Your breathing slows, muscles relaxing into the mattress. The last thing you register before sleep claims you completely is the soft settling of ancient timbers, the house itself seeming to sigh as it bears the weight of its occupants, holding them safe through another Tudor night. Sleep well. Tomorrow we'll continue our journey through the perils and pleasures of Tudor home ownership. Morning light streams through your window, casting long golden rays across your bedchamber. You blink awake, momentarily disoriented by the sound of unfamiliar voices downstairs. Then, remember last night's visitors, the merchants who sought lodging on their journey. In Tudor England, your home is never entirely your own. It exists within a network of social obligations and community connections. As you rise and dress, you can hear the household already bustling with activity. The visitors will need breakfast before continuing their journey. Servants or family members are stoking fires and preparing food, and the rhythms of another Tudor day have begun. The past few days have given us glimpses into many aspects of Tudor home ownership, the revolutionary impact of chimneys, the dangers of water collection, the tooth-rotting consequences of sugar, the constant threat of fire and disease. But perhaps the most profound change happening during this period is less visible. The very concept of home is transforming. In medieval times, most houses consisted primarily of a single great hall where all activities took place: cooking, eating, working, socializing, and sleeping. Privacy was minimal, with most household members bedding down together in the hall at night. But your Tudor house, with its multiple rooms, separate bedchambers, and specialized spaces, represents a new understanding of domestic life. This transformation was made possible by the chimney, when smoke no longer needed to rise from a central hearth to a hole in the roof. Interior walls and upper floors could divide the space into separate rooms. What emerged was a new concept of privacy and intimacy that would profoundly shape Western domestic life for centuries to come. As you make your way downstairs, you pass through spaces that would have been inconceivable a century earlier: a dedicated staircase rather than a ladder, perhaps a landing or small hallway, doorways leading to separate chambers rather than a single open hall. These architectural features reflect changing ideas about family, privacy, and domestic comfort. Entering the main room, you find your visitors already awake and breaking their fast with bread and small beer. They're dressed for travel, their goods packed and ready for the journey ahead. As merchants, they represent another transformative force in Tudor England, expanding trade networks that bring new goods, ideas, and sometimes dangers into ordinary homes. "We've acquired some interesting items in London," one merchant tells you as you join them at the table. "Spanish oranges, if you can believe it, brought by ship just last month, and glass beads from Venice that shine like jewels." The Tudor period witnessed an explosion in global trade and exploration. Ships returned from distant lands bearing exotic goods that gradually found their way into homes across England. Good news, these new items brought flavour, beauty and innovation to daily life. Bad news, they sometimes carried hidden risks, from addictive properties to harmful ingredients to deadly diseases. Sugar, as we've seen, transformed Tudor cuisine while silently damaging teeth. Tobacco, another New World import, was initially praised as a medicinal herb before its addictive nature became apparent. Fine textiles from the East introduced new colours and textures to Tudor homes, but sometimes harboured insects or disease. Even seemingly innocuous items like Chinese porcelain or Italian glassware changed domestic habits and expectations. After your visitors depart with appropriate thanks for your hospitality, you turn your attention to household matters. If you're the master or mistress of the house, you might review accounts, assign tasks to servants or family members, or plan necessary purchases. If you're a servant yourself, you join in the daily work that keeps the household functioning. The division of labour in Tudor homes follows strict hierarchies based on gender, age and status. Men typically handle certain tasks, heavy agricultural work, wood cutting, building maintenance, while women manage others, food preparation, textile work, dairying, brewing. Children assist with tasks appropriate to their age and strength, gradually taking on more responsibility as they mature. Yet amid these traditional patterns, Tudor England is experiencing significant social mobility. The dissolution of the monasteries under Henry VIII redistributed vast wealth and property, allowing some from the middling sort to rise dramatically in status. The expansion of trade creates new opportunities for those with skills in commerce or crafts. Even servants might save enough to eventually establish their own households. Your own home reflects this changing social landscape. Perhaps it includes some items that would have been unattainable for someone of your station a generation earlier. A piece of fine furniture, imported spices in the kitchen, a decorative object from abroad. These possessions aren't merely functional, but serve as markers of identity and aspiration in a society increasingly defined by consumption rather than just birth. The morning passes in productive labour, each household member contributing to the collective welfare through their assigned tasks. By midday, the main meal is ready, perhaps a pottage of vegetables and grains with a small portion of meat, accompanied by bread and small beer. The household gathers to eat, conversations flowing around recent events, plans for the afternoon, news brought by the travelling merchants. After the meal, you decide to walk through town on an errand, perhaps to purchase something needed for the household or to deliver finished goods if you practice a craft. The streets are alive with activity, apprentices running errands, market stalls displaying wares, animals being led to pasture or slaughter, children playing in the dirt. You pass the home of Master Fletcher, the wealthy merchant whose house stands as a testament to Tudor prosperity. Its ornate exterior displays elaborate timber framing in decorative patterns, multiple chimneys rise from the roof, and glass glints in every window. Such homes represent a new phenomenon in Tudor England, domestic architecture as conspicuous display. In medieval times, only religious buildings and noble residences were designed to impress. Ordinary homes, even those of the relatively wealthy, were primarily functional structures, but in the Tudor period, successful merchants, lawyers, and landowners began using their houses to demonstrate status and taste. Decorative features with no practical purpose, ornate chimney stacks, elaborate timber patterns, imposing entranceways became increasingly common. This shift reveals a fundamental change in how homes were perceived. No longer merely shelters or centres of production, they became expressions of identity, taste, and social position. The Tudor home was becoming a form of self-representation, a trend that would only intensify in subsequent centuries. Continuing through town, you pass another vivid reminder of Tudor realities, a house marked with a red cross on the door. A watchman stands nearby ensuring no one enters or leaves. The household has been quarantined due to suspected plague. The occupants sealed inside for 40 days, regardless of whether they show symptoms. Plague remains a persistent threat throughout the Tudor period, with major outbreaks occurring every few decades and smaller incidents appearing regularly. The disease strikes seemingly at random, killing some while sparing others in the same household. Its cause remains mysterious to Tudor medical knowledge, variously attributed to miasma, bad air, divine punishment, or astrological influences. The standard response, quarantine, often condemns healthy family members to infection by forcing them to remain with the sick. Those with means flee to country estates when plague threatens, while the poor must remain in infected towns, hoping to avoid contagion. You hurry past the marked house, perhaps touching a pomander of sweet-smelling herbs carried for protection or muttering a brief prayer. Disease in Tudor England is both commonplace and terrifying. A fact of life that nonetheless never loses its power to inspire dread. Your errand completed, you return home through streets that grow muddy as a light rain begins to fall. The Tudor town lacks drainage systems beyond simple ditches, and waste disposal consists primarily of tossing refuse into the street or the nearest waterway. The combined result is an environment that becomes treacherously slippery after rain, with walking hazards hidden beneath muddy puddles. Back at home, you find a minor crisis unfolding. A leak has developed in the roof, sending water dripping onto the stored grain. Household members scramble to move the precious food to drier locations and place buckets under the worst leaks. Such emergencies are common in Tudor homes, where weather constantly tests the integrity of building materials. Leaking roofs, whether thatched or tiled, represent a significant threat to household welfare. Beyond the immediate inconvenience of dripping water, persistent leaks can damage the timber frame, cause plaster to crumble, and ruin stored food or textiles. A leak left unaddressed might eventually threaten the structural integrity of the entire building. Once the immediate crisis is contained, plans must be made for repairs. If your roof is thatched, you might need to call in a thatcher who specializes in this ancient craft. Thatching uses bundled reeds or straw to create a waterproof covering that can last for decades if properly maintained. The best thatchers are highly sought after, their specialized knowledge earning them good wages. If your roof is tiled, repairs require different expertise. Clay tiles, though more durable and fire-resistant than thatch, can crack or slip out of position during storms. Replacing individual tiles demands skill to ensure proper overlap and prevent future leaks. Either way, roof repairs in Tudor England aren't simple do-it-yourself projects, but require specialised knowledge passed down through generations of craftsmen. The complexity of maintaining a Tudor home necessitates community interdependence. No single household possesses all the skills needed to keep a house in good repair. As the afternoon progresses, the rain intensifies, confining most household activities indoors. This creates an opportunity for indoor tasks often neglected during fair weather: mending clothes, repairing tools, spinning thread, or preserving food. Tudor households waste little time, understanding that productivity today prevents privation tomorrow. If children are present in your household, the rainy afternoon might include some education. Literacy rates are rising during the Tudor period, particularly among the middling sort. A boy might practice writing on a small slate or waxed tablet, while a girl learns household management alongside reading and perhaps simple arithmetic. Education is practical, focused on skills needed for future roles rather than abstract knowledge. For the wealthy, education becomes increasingly formalized during this period, with grammar schools and universities expanding their reach. But for most Tudor households, learning remains integrated into daily life. Children acquire skills by observing and assisting adults, gradually taking on more complex tasks as they mature. As evening approaches, preparations begin for the final meal of the day. Supper in Tudor times is typically lighter than dinner, perhaps bread and cheese with preserved vegetables or fruits. The household gathers once more around the table, sharing food and conversation as daylight fades. After the meal, activities shift to those possible by firelight or candlelight. Storytelling has been a cornerstone of evening entertainment since time immemorial, and Tudor households are no exception. Tales range from local legends to biblical stories to news from distant places, all passed orally from teller to listener. In households where someone can read, printed materials might provide evening entertainment. The Tudor period saw an explosion in publishing, with books becoming more affordable and available than ever before. Religious texts predominate, but increasingly secular works, romances, histories, practical manuals, find their way into Tudor homes. This shift toward a print culture represents another profound change in domestic life. For the first time, ideas regularly enter homes not through human visitors but through the written word. Books and pamphlets bring distant voices directly into the household, exposing Tudor families to perspectives and information that would have been inaccessible to previous generations. As true night falls, the house gradually quiets. Candles are extinguished as household members retire, leaving perhaps a single light burning for necessary movement during the night. The darkness of a Tudor night is profound by modern standards. No streetlights illuminate the world outside, and interior lighting is sparse and dim. This darkness shapes behavior in ways modern people might find difficult to imagine. Activities follow natural light patterns, with most productive work compressed into daylight hours and night bringing a genuine cessation of most labor. Sleep patterns often differ from modern expectations, with many Tudor people practicing segmented sleep. A first sleep of several hours, followed by a wakeful period of an hour or so, then a second sleep until dawn. During the wakeful period between first and second sleep, Tudor people might pray, meditate, discuss dreams with bedmates, or even visit neighbours briefly. This pattern, which seems strange to us today, was simply the natural rhythm of human rest in an era before artificial lighting extended day into night. As you prepare for sleep in your Tudor bedchamber, you perform the small rituals that bookend each day, perhaps a prayer of thanks for safe passage through another day's dangers, a mental accounting of tasks completed and those awaiting tomorrow, a moment of gratitude for the solid roof despite its leak that shelters you from the elements. Your home, for all its imperfections and hazards, represents security in a precarious world. The timber frame that has stood for decades might stand for centuries more, outlasting generations of occupants. The walls that sometimes crack and require repair nonetheless keep out the worst of wind and weather. The hearth that poses a constant fire risk also provides essential warmth and enables cooking. This duality defines the Tudor relationship with domestic space. Homes are both protection against and potential sources of danger. The chimney that transformed domestic architecture and enabled new concepts of privacy might collapse or catch fire. The roof that shields from rain might leak or rot. The stored food that provides security against hunger might spoil or attract vermin. Yet, despite these risks, Tudor homes represent a remarkable achievement. Structures built primarily from organic materials that can last for centuries with proper maintenance. Many Tudor houses still stand today, their timber frames continuing to support walls and roofs after 400 years or more. This longevity testifies to the skill of Tudor builders and the soundness of their methods, developed through generations of practical experience. As you drift towards sleep, the familiar sounds of your Tudor home surround you, the occasional creak of ancient timbers, the soft rustle of straw in your mattress, perhaps the distant murmur of voices from household members still awake below. These sounds represent continuity, a domestic symphony that has lulled countless sleepers before you and will continue long after you're gone. Your breathing slows, muscles relaxing into the mattress. Outside, the night watchman calls the hour, his voice carrying reassurance through the rainy darkness. Midnight and all's well. Sleep claims you, drawing you into dreams perhaps influenced by the day's events. Merchants with exotic goods, leaking roofs, the sobering sight of a plague-marked house. Your unconscious mind processes these experiences, integrating them into your understanding of the world. And as you sleep, the Tudor world continues its gradual transformation. New foods from distant lands slowly change dietary habits. Printed books spread ideas at unprecedented speed. Emerging technologies, better glass production, improved building techniques, more efficient tools incrementally reshape daily life. Global trade networks expand, bringing novel goods into ordinary homes. These changes, imperceptible day by day, will eventually create a world that Tudor people would barely recognize. Your Tudor home stands at the crossroads of medieval and modern, incorporating elements of ancient building wisdom while introducing innovations that point toward future developments. The specialized rooms, the chimney that enables them, the glass windows that admit light while excluding weather, the locks and privacy features, all represent evolutionary steps toward what will eventually become the modern home. Tudor homeowners navigated a world of both tradition and transformation. They honored the wisdom of previous generations while cautiously embracing innovations that offered greater comfort, convenience, or status. Their homes were simultaneously workplaces, social spaces, refuges, and expressions of identity, multifunctional in ways that modern specialized living spaces often are not. What can we learn from these Tudor homeowners? Perhaps the value of adaptability, facing novel challenges with practical solutions drawn from accumulated wisdom. Perhaps the importance of community interdependence, recognizing that survival depends on shared knowledge and mutual assistance. Perhaps the virtue of resilience, continuing to build, maintain, and improve homes despite constant threats from fire, disease, weather, and structural failure. As we return to our own time, leaving behind the timber-framed world of Tudor England, we might reflect on how profoundly domestic architecture shapes human experience. The Tudor Revolution in home design, moving from the medieval Great Hall to specialized rooms, fundamentally changed family dynamics, social interactions, and individual psychology. Our modern expectations of privacy, comfort, and domestic function have their roots in this transformative period. The Tudor home, with all its dangers and comforts, reminds us that human shelter is never merely physical, but always cultural as well. Houses reflect and reinforce particular ways of living, embodying values, assumptions, and aspirations specific to their time and place. By understanding the Tudor home, we gain insight not just into building techniques, but into an entire worldview, how people conceived of family, community, privacy, and domestic life in an era both distant from and connected to our own. Sleep well, leaving behind the timber-framed Tudor world with its chimneys both revolutionary and deadly, its sugar both delicious and destructive, its water both life-giving and dangerous. Tomorrow, you'll wake in your own time, with its own distinctive comforts and hazards. Its own balance of tradition and innovation, its own understanding of what makes a house a home. The Tudor homeowner's journey through daily life, navigating constant physical labour, ever-present dangers, and gradually changing social conditions, offers a window into human resilience and adaptability, despite circumstances that modern people might find unimaginably challenging. Tudor households not only survived but created beauty, comfort, and meaning within their timber-framed walls. Perhaps the most valuable lesson from our journey through Tudor domestic life is appreciation for the technologies that make our modern homes safer and more comfortable, for the medical knowledge that protects us from many diseases that ravaged Tudor communities, for the building codes and safety standards that reduce risks from fire and structural collapse, for the public infrastructure that delivers clean water and removes waste. These modern advantages didn't appear suddenly, but evolved through centuries of incremental improvements, each generation building upon the knowledge and innovations of those who came before. The Tudor period, with its chimney revolution and newly specialised domestic spaces, represents one crucial link in this long chain of development leading to our contemporary understanding of home. As your consciousness fades completely into sleep, leaving behind the Tudor world we've explored together, carry with you this understanding. Homes in every era balance protection against danger, tradition against innovation, individual privacy against community connection. The particular solutions may differ dramatically across time and culture, but the fundamental human needs for shelter, security, and belonging remain constant. The timber-framed Tudor house, standing sturdy against wind and rain, housing generations of occupants through births and deaths, joys and sorrows, represents the enduring human drive to create not just structures but homes, spaces infused with meaning, memory, and the particular character of their inhabitants. Rest now, knowing that across the centuries, people have found ways to make homes in circumstances both better and worse than our own. Their ingenuity and determination, creating domestic spaces that shelter not just bodies, but hopes, dreams, and the quiet routines that define a life well lived.